Hello friends, I hope everybody's doing well. Okay, so today we have back in the Stihl Sweeper. In the previous video on this, we tried to start it up and then the pull cord broke. So I just made a video on the pull cord. But in the meantime, I did have a carburetor for it to put on, that my friend got for it. And the carburetor was a complete failure. So I didn't even bother putting that video up. And today we do have a carburetor for it. I looked up the Hipa carburetor for it and it didn't seem right. On the backing of the air filter, it has like a tube on the top, and the only carburetors I came up with were pretty much identical except for that tube on the top that goes through the air filter. So I told my friend to get an OEM carburetor for it, but he ended up getting a Hipa carburetor for it, and it doesn't have that tube on the top. So we're going to take off the original top piece that has the tube on there, and we're going to just convert it over to the Hipa carburetor, and I'm pretty sure that'll work okay. The carburetor he got for it had that tube on it, but the backing of the air filter wouldn't fit. I even took the grommet out. I had trouble putting it together. Then after I got the carburetor together, I tried to adjust the carburetor. It wouldn't idle right. It wouldn't throttle up right. It was just a complete disaster. So today what we're going to do is we're going to begin by repackage. We're going to unpackage the Hipa carburetor here, and I'm going to show you exactly what we have to do to the carburetor to make it fit this. So I'll be back to you in a minute or so. Okay, so here's the Hipa carburetor packaging, which came in a real nice package. I already opened it. Okay, so that carburetor, it's no good. I'm even going to change the fuel lines. I don't trust anything about that carburetor. It was in a box with no marking on it, so I don't know where he even ordered it from. Here's the problem that we're having here. Here's the brand new carburetor. I already unscrewed this today, and I just made sure that we could just change this over no problem. So now if you see this tube here, this one doesn't have the tube where the backing of the air filter housing goes on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch this out. I'll use the new primer bulb here, and right beneath this is where the diaphragm is. So that came apart all right. The diaphragm is still on there good. So we're just going to switch this over here, and I'll be back to you after I do that. And then we'll go on. I'll show you how to remove the carburetor and reinstall it. I have a lot of faith in the Hipa products, so I'm pretty sure this carburetor will work out good. And like I said, everything is identical on this carburetor except for that piece that goes on the top here with this I don't know if it's a vent. I don't know what this tube is for. It goes into the air filter backing here. I'm not really sure about that, but let me go ahead and switch this over, and then we'll get the machine on the table and we'll take it apart, put it together. I might just install the fuel line off camera. We'll see when we get to that part. Okay, so I'm just going to switch this thing over right on camera in case you guys get a carburetor like this. It's pretty much identical, but you have to change this piece here. So I already loosened these screws this morning, and we'll just change this over. Okay, so this has a brand new primer bulb, of course, and everything, so we use that off of this one here. Okay, let's put that aside. You know, this whole thing's different. It doesn't have that plunger in here on the original one. Well, the only thing we can do is try and see. Everything else looks the same here, it appears. So, alright. We'll just put this back together here. I think it'll be alright. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure the fuel inlet or outlet or whatever you want to call it is lined up with the lower one here. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to put this thing together again. Alright, there's no sense in watching me screw the screws back in. So I have everything in place. Like I said, I had to take the grommet out of the backing of the air filter, so we're going to have to make sure we insert that again. And this should fit fine onto the machine. So I'll be back to you. What I'll do is I'll screw these screws in here, get it prepared, and then we'll go ahead and switch the carburetors over. Let me get the magnifying glass so I can make sure I shut the camera off. Okay, I'm going to try to film this without being in your way here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this torque spit here. I'm sorry, I don't know what size that is. And we're going to take this air filter cover off. And then you're just going to want to pull it back this way, and it's notched. And I believe we used the brand spanking new air filter that came with the other carburetor. Now the air filters that came with the Hipa carburetor are the wrong ones. So we can't use the air filters off that. Then you're going to take either an 8mm or a 5/16 socket, I believe these are. And you're going to take the two nuts off here. This is where that tube comes out that I was talking about, so we got to remember to put the grommet back on this air filter housing backing. One nut. Let me make sure you're still in view here. Yeah, you are pretty much. I even had trouble getting these screws to tighten up in here. This carburetor was completely wrong. Not to mention that the carburetor didn't even work. I mean, I struggled to get this thing to go back together, and on top of everything, the carburetor still didn't work. So be careful what kind of carburetor you buy. Every video I've seen, and I've used them myself, every Hipa carburetor, never a problem. I mean, they're so good that you don't even have to adjust them most of the time. Okay, so this is where I took the grommet out back here. I think I want to put that back in right now before I forget. Okay, that's back in. Okay, that's cool. See, the grommet goes in here. So I had to take the grommet out because this backing didn't fit right, like I said 3 times already. Okay, so, okay, we'll pull a few lines off. Make sure there's no pressure in the tank here. And I'm just going to change that I'm just going to change the whole fuel line to, I don't care if I mess up this fuel line. It's already pretty stuck on here. Might have to wiggle it off with the needle nose, wherever they are. Yeah, I don't trust anything about that carburetor he got for this. Okay, so you have this notch. You have where the cable goes in here, and then there'll be a notch. And you gotta make sure you just get this on here right, because it could go on 2 ways here. So make sure you put that back on right. This is a little bit of a pain right here to put this linkage. Has a pin in here and has to go into the backing of the exhaust manifold here. You gotta make sure you get that in there right. And I'm gonna put you off camera, and then I'm gonna stick the new fuel line assembly in. What this is a big grommet, so you just pop this out, and I use a screwdriver that's pretty big here so you don't puncture it. So you can put a little WD-40 around here, and it'll go back in. And just make sure you put this back in the right way so the lines are facing the right way. Because already I don't like the way this, I'm not too crazy about the way this steel here is situated, but alright, let me go ahead and do that. I'm going to take you off camera for a minute, and then we'll get to put the carburetor back on. Okay, so here's the new fuel line here. So you want to make sure we're putting a brand new fuel filter on it. And you see how this is longer here than the other hose? That's where you're going to want to put your fuel line on. So just twist it on there. And then you could drop it back in the tank, and like I said, you got to stick the grommet back in the tank here, and you're on your way. Okay, this is how your fuel line should end up. Okay, the one that goes to the primer will be forward, and the one that goes to the intake of the carburetor will be back. You don't want to put these so the hoses are one here and one back there, because then it goes under the what do you call it, the intake manifold. You don't want that. You want them to be as lined up as possible here. Also, the gasket, you'll see a hole at the bottom of the gasket here. Alright, and then you'll see a notch at the bottom here of the intake. You want that hole to line up with that. Okay, so what I did was I got that in place over here. And you want to take your fuel lines here and just tuck them under the stud, and then you can hook up the fuel lines last. And then I hooked up the cable here. I got such a sun glare, it's not funny. I can't see nothing here going on. Yeah, I put the cable into the notch here, and you gotta make sure that the big part of the cable goes in to the stud here. And I can't see, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm just going to continue like this. I think you're in pretty much good view here. So we have the cable in. I tucked these hoses underneath here, and you could catch the hoses on once you get the carburetor in place. The carburetors, the fuel lines actually run under the fuel line, and they're a little bit of a pain. It's a little bit of a pain to put back in. And then you want to take your cable and just put it around where it's supposed to go here. And then just make sure the throttle works right. Yeah, and it's working properly. All right, so now we'll put the backing back on here. And hopefully this doesn't spring out. Okay, so we got that on. Now you want to take your nuts and put your nuts back on. I have to make sure this cable's on there good. It seems to be. This is a little tough right here, trying to get these nuts back on. I could have stuck them in the socket and tried to wheel them on. And that's what I think I'm going to do. So I'll take the socket with the extension here. Stick the nut in here. And hopefully we get it to start. The socket, the nut might be going too far into the socket. I'm not sure if we got it started. Nope, it's not going on right here. Not working out. So what I'm going to do is, since the socket fell into the socket here, I'll put this other nut on here. It'll take up the space, and then you'll be able to... This is like a complete disaster here. I feel, you know, you can watch me struggle, because you're going to struggle with this a little bit. Because this setup here, I'm not crazy about here. Can't get the nut back in the socket right. I think this will work here. Ah, this thing's rolling off the table. What could go wrong on camera will go wrong. You guys know that. Okay, what you want to do is, before you put this backing on here, you're going to want to hook up the fuel lines as soon as you set the carburetor on. Because I put the backing on and I couldn't even get to these fuel lines here. So you just might want to do that. Alright, so I'm going to finish putting this together. You saw what a struggle I was having with the nuts. So I turned the machine on its side, and it looks like it's a lot easier to work with the engine on its side like this. So I'm going to get it all back together, and then I'll get it back on the ground here, and we're going to start it up and see if it's okay. Okay, I put fresh fuel in it, and I primed it, and it primed. So let's see if we get this thing to run. I also have a screwdriver on standby in case we have to make a carburetor adjustment. I don't remember which way was choke, and I could hardly see this thing here. I think that's choke, all the way back. Maybe not. Did this thing have a kill switch? Might have. Yeah, it does have the kill switch. I had it off. Well, that's no good. Remember I was telling you about that inner part there where the yeah, it's not lined up right or something. All right, back to the drawing board again. Okay, let's try it again and see if I can really run myself over with it. Alright, I'm going to see if I can lower the idle on it, maybe. Or that piece isn't on right again. I'm not sure. I don't know. Work on this stupid thing without shutting it, you know. I mean, I have this thing on right. I don't know. Maybe still. I don't know if the idle's dropping or what. Yeah. Still can't be on right. Okay, so except for the mess up I did on this with the with that backing plate that holds the throttle cable on it, I didn't have it in a notch right 3 times. Okay, so I got it back in. I adjusted the idle off camera because it wouldn't idle because I turned the screw out so far. And I turned the screw back in and I just set the idle right. And like all the other Hipa carburetors, this doesn't even need any mixture adjustments. Throttle's right up, goes back down to idle. I'll show you. So I'm afraid to turn the idle up anymore because this has a centrifugal clutch. So if you have the idle turned up too high, what happens is the roller starts spinning and, you know, then it's dangerous. Like I said, I'm not really too crazy about this machine, but most of this video is that you can get a carburetor from Hipa that's pretty much identical, and then you could change that top piece to accept the you know, that tube that goes through the air cleaner there, and it worked out fine. It runs real good, starts right up. First pull, let's start it up again for kicks. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm pretty happy. Maybe the idle could be turned up a little bit, but like I said, I don't want to take any chances with it. It idles. It throttles up nice. So I hope somebody gets something out of this where you can order a Hipa carb. Now, like I said, the last carb that he got for this, I don't know where he got it. There was no markings on the box, and that was a complete hunk of junk, as you saw. So, thanks for watching. I'll see you all on the next one, and stay safe.